When I was studying communication in college, we learned about a principle called the fundamental attribution error. This is the tendency to judge ourselves based on our intent, but to make judgments about others based on their actions. It's the idea that if I'm late for work, well, it couldn't be helped. I mean, there was a traffic jam. What was I supposed to do? But if you're late for work, well, you're always late to work. I mean, you should leave earlier. You see how easy it is to give ourselves some latitude, but to not cut others any slack? One of the reasons it's easy to slip into this kind of thinking is that intent really does matter in a lot of situations. Think about the difference between manslaughter and murder. It's a matter of intent. Unfortunately, when someone's living with Alzheimer's or another type of dementia, it's very easy for us as caregivers to get hung up on trying to determine intent. Did this person know what she was doing? Or was it the disease talking? Well, by the time you try to sort through all of that, things could have gone a lot further south in an interaction. I think instead of focusing on intent, it's much more helpful to focus on improvising. You'll probably recognize the principle of improvising and being in the moment as one of the vital 5 pillars, one of the key principles that good dementia care technique comes from. What does this look like in practice? Well, it's very easy to be interacting with someone and to think that you've been clear and to think that you've used not only good verbal skills with simple words and phrases, but you've also used good nonverbal skills. Suppose, for example, you're trying to assist someone in the bathroom and you've communicated that you're about to remove their pants so that they can sit on the toilet. Suppose you reach in to slide their pants down and you get slapped in the face. You could easily get hung up trying to figure out if they knew what they were doing in that moment. But how are you going to respond if they did know? Are you going to have an argument with someone that doesn't have the ability to use logic and reasoning? That would be a little bit like having an argument with a young child, and it wouldn't make any sense at all. But if you're focused on improvising and making quick pivots and doing things that are helpful in the situation, then you might do what I suggested yesterday and give an out-of-character response to an out-of-character response. You might step back and chuckle a little bit and say, well, that's one way to have a rosy cheek. And if you step back and give a little bit more space and you're smiling, you might be able to more quickly get things back on track than if your mind spends a lot of time circling around whether or not this person understood what they were doing or not. I have a client who recently was asking her father to bring his dishes to the kitchen sink so that they could be washed. And for whatever reason, he responded by throwing his plate in the opposite direction. Who knows what he was thinking in that moment? And if you get hung up on intent, you might find yourself in a really tricky situation where he might feel worse than he even needs to. If he didn't know what he was supposed to do and it was just like a misconnection in the brain, then to try to scold him or try to insist that he apologize could make more problems than are even necessary. But if we're improvising, you might assume that he thought the plate was a frisbee and it didn't work so well, and he's probably just as shocked as you are. When you improvise in those ways, instead of focusing on intent, I think a lot goes better, and we help save face for people, and we create space for them to live with an otherwise very debilitating situation. So today, I hope you'll look for opportunities where you can improvise instead of focusing on intent. Just assume that whatever is happening, the person's in a really hard situation. And our job isn't to be judge and jury. Our job is to help pivot things as quickly as possible from a bad situation into a much better direction. I hope that's helpful for you and the people that you serve, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for another episode of the Caregiver Minute.